Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mara. I'm super excited because I'm doing my May reading wrap up today. And if you watched last month's wrap up or just listened to me talk about any books or reading experiences from last month, I was struggling. Okay, it was bad. I did not have a good reading month. I think I read like 7 books, which wasn't bad, but I just like didn't really like any of the books I was reading and I did not feel like reading. This month I read 13 books, almost doubled that, and I had so many books in here that I genuinely loved. This one's gonna be a good one. I have a lot of books. I'm gonna try to get through these quickly. I'm gonna pull up my Goodreads and be ready to go because we got a lot of books to talk about and a lot of good ones. Starting off strong, I have a Sarah Adams book. Everybody knows that I am literally obsessed with Sarah Adams. This was the first book that was chosen for my TBR last month, and this is the rule book. I am a huge fan of the cheat sheet by Sarah Adams, and this is in the same kind of universe. It is not necessary to read the cheat sheet beforehand, but I will say, seeing those cameos from the characters in the cheat sheet, especially after not reading that book for like a year, and then this coming out as a new release and reading it as a new release, I was so excited to see Nathan and Bree. I would say to go and read it. This is about Nora, who is like a sports agent, and her ex-boyfriend Derek, who they dated in college and he now plays in the NFL. She ends up accidentally being his new agent. They're making all of these rules with each other because they're like, okay, well, we can't like fall in love again. We can't have a relationship. Like, I'm really professional and you also need to be really professional. So we're making these rules to make sure that nothing happens. I just loved this so much. I'm normally not a second chance romance kind of girly. I normally don't like those because it's kind of hard for me to want to root for the couple, because if you didn't work out the first time, I'm like, what are the odds that you're actually gonna work out again? And I know it's fiction, but still. But I really liked this one. I liked their dynamic a lot. I thought they were funny. I gave this a 4.5. I really liked this. And Sarah Adams is just always a good author to pick if you just need like feel-good books to get you out of slumps. And I was in a bad slump and this helped so much. I literally cannot not rave about Sarah Adams' writing. I freaking love her. Is that cute if I put that there? Guys, I have like a whole new setup. I don't know what to do with myself. So the next book that I read was Bride. I gave this a 3-star. This is about a vampire who falls in love, or well, they have like an arranged marriage to basically like help with this war going on. Her dad thinks that if she as a vampire has this arranged marriage with the werewolf king guy or whatever. They're alpha, sorry. I should know, I was like a huge Teen Wolf stan. The fact that I called him the werewolf king and not an alpha is crazy. He is the alpha werewolf and her dad thinks that it will help with like alliances in the war. And she's basically like, we hate them. Why am I the one being thrown out literally to the wolves? He ends up bonding with this like younger half-sister of the werewolf and building a relationship with her. And then that's kind of her way of getting in and getting closer to him. There's this whole thing that goes on at the end, and I honestly felt like I liked this book, but the ending was super rushed and it kind of felt panicked and that like we needed to end it, so it was just like super quick, thrown in your face. I didn't dislike this book, I just didn't love it. I read it and she was good, like it was there. I didn't dislike it, I just did not. I don't think I'll pick this up ever again. We'll put it there. I think how my ratings work is like 5-star is I'm never gonna stop thinking about it, I'm gonna buy merch, I'm going to obsess over it, and I'm gonna recommend it to everybody. 4-star is like I loved it, it was cute, I really enjoyed it, I'll think about it a lot, but it didn't change my life. 3 stars, like I'll recommend it, but I probably won't read it ever again. 2-star is it had potential, and 1-star is absolutely not. This one I was actually really shocked by. Like I thought that I would like it, but at the same time, this isn't really my type of book, and that is Done and Dusted. I've had bad luck with like cowboy, small town romances. So I was a little worried about this, but I believe this is Lila Sage's first book, if I'm not mistaken, and everybody was raving about it, and I gave this 4 stars. I thought this was so cute. I loved the dynamic. It is brother's best friend. So obviously I was like a huge fan there. She ends up getting in an accident when she's riding her horse and like competing and doing shows and stuff, and it kind of traumatizes her. So her brother's best friend ends up trying to get her to feel better riding again. And then of course in doing that, they gain a relationship and they have to sneak around with each other, and it is so good. I loved this. I did not give it a 5-star because it did not change my life, but I gave this a 4. I'm really excited to read the second book in this series. I did not think this was going to be as high of a rating as it was, but Lila Sage proved me wrong. Shout out to her. Next, I read Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is another one that I was kind of like, this could be hit or miss. I'm not really sure. I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think reading dark Harry Styles fanfiction in middle school. Made me trained for this, okay? Like, not a retelling of Peter Pan, but it's those characters. But I'm pretty sure Emily McIntyre is very like adamant on how it's not a retelling. It's not like a cute happily ever after type deal or a cute fairy tale. This is James Hook, and he hates Peter, duh. And Peter's daughter is Wendy. James is trying to use Wendy to get back at Peter, but in doing that, he kind of realizes how awful of a father Peter is to Wendy and ends up really protective over her. So he wants to get revenge on her dad for their own personal issues. When he finds out what's going on with Wendy and him, then he's like, we don't like your dad. We need to like make sure that you're protected and safe. Makes sense? I really liked this. I gave this a 4-star. It was not what I was expecting. I heard a lot of people say like iffy things about it, so I think I was expecting it to be super, super dark, but honestly, I didn't think it was. I don't know if this is labeled as a dark romance. I don't know. I didn't think that it was dark. I've definitely heard of books that are like much darker than this, so this kind of was like light work. I did really enjoy this. I understand why some people might not, but I thought she was fun and I enjoyed myself, so that's all that matters here. I will be continuing the rest of that series. The Naturals, I gave it a 3.5. Basically, these kids have like criminal minds. If you know the show and you've seen it, you kind of know the way that they operate. Their kind of tendencies to puzzle pieces together and figure out cases. So basically, these kids are all like recruited and called in to work on these cold cases and try to resolve them or solve them. This is the first book in the series. I think there's 4 books, but I have the second one. I want to read it soon. It didn't change my life. I gave it a 3.5, but it is pretty popular across the book community, so I wanted to keep going with the series, but also it's the first book in a series, so this is kind of like you're gaining all of the information rather than actually having a lot of plot. There was a good amount of plot in here, and the pacing was great, and it wasn't confusing or anything, but it didn't change my life. But I still really enjoyed it, so I would recommend, okay? That was all of my TBR. I am so excited about this one, and I breezed through it, and part of me wished that I had taken my time a little bit more, but oh well. And that was Powerful by Lauren Roberts. Isn't she just the cutest little thing ever? I was so excited to read this, and I gave this a 5-star. This is following Adina, I think is how you say it, Adina and Mac, and this is in the same time as when Peyton is at the trials in Powerless. Something about reading this and seeing like Kai's name and knowing that they're talking about him had my heart racing. I was like, I need my man. He was in here for like a split second. If you know what happens at the end of Powerless, then you kind of know where this is gonna go if it's following Adina and Mac. I loved the writing of this, and I saw so many people say, you know, if this had not been a novella and this was a full-length book, then 100% I would have given it a 5-star, but otherwise it was a 4. I gave this 5. I was like, you know what? I was crying over this book. This book was so, so good, and I love the series. I love the writing. Like, even though these characters I'm not gonna be completely attached to, I loved their story, and I loved the writing and the way that it was developed alongside Powerless. So I felt like because of that, she was a 5-star. And oh my god, I cannot wait for Reckless. I cannot wait. Like, I don't know if I've ever been so excited for a book. This is how I was feeling when Wildfire was announced. The next few books that I read for my video where I was reading like my best friend. So these are all books that Kat had given me to read, and I filmed a video reading them. So these are what I thought. I read the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez, and I gave this book a 4-star. I really, really, really liked this. I had read The Friend Zone, but forget it completely. I don't remember a single thing. It was like 2 years ago, so it's long gone. She's gone. Like, I don't remember a single thing. This was so, so good and so cute and like so rom-com-y, and I just adored it. It's following this guy named Jason, who is actually a singer, like using a fake name when he meets this girl because he doesn't want her to know that he's like this pop star and super famous and selling out like stadiums. I don't know if it's stadiums, but it's probably arenas. Okay, like he's pretty famous. Ends up driving one day and his dog jumps in her car, and so she ends up calling the number on his collar, and she's like, please come get your dog, like this is ridiculous. And then she was like, actually, if your dog was running away, like I don't know if I want to give him back to you because clearly you're not taking care of him. So they're ending up like texting each other and talking a little bit, and then he's like, well, let me meet up with you in person so I can get my dog back. Basically, relationship starts to form from that, and it's so cute, like the dynamic between the characters. And the only reason it wasn't a 5-star is because the ending was not my favorite. It has a certain trope in the ending that I'm not a huge fan of, and I'm always like twitching my eye over, but it's okay because I did really enjoy this book still. So I'll let it slide. It was a 4-star. I highly recommend. Next, I read Fight or Flight, and honestly, I couldn't tell you a single thing about this book. This was like pure smut, but I gave it a 2-star, and I felt like it was really draining for me to read this book, so I don't even want to sit and talk a lot about it. All I have to say is that this couple was one of those couples where they just hook up forever and then they're like, well, we should probably just date now. And that's not how I want my couples in my books. Then I read The Wedding Date, and I also gave this a 2-star. But this one I gave a 2-star because the whole premise here is that they meet in a hotel elevator. The guy's like, look, I need a date for this wedding. Do you want to come? And she's like, sure. But I felt like the wedding actually wasn't as much of a plot point as it should have been. I felt like it was mostly what happens afterwards and them trying to maintain a relationship, but I would have just loved to see more of the wedding itself, which is why I was a little disappointed by it. But I finished off that video reading Gone Girl, and I gave this a 4-star. And if you know anything about me and thrillers or mysteries, those are usually not my genre, and a book getting a 4-star is like a 5-star in a romance. Like, this is a book that I was not expecting to have such a high rating, but I was binging this book, could not stop. I was shook. This is about a couple who has like this rocky relationship, and the wife disappears, and everybody's like, okay, well, the husband probably killed her. You find out what really happened, and it's like the biggest plot twist ever. I was not expecting it, but also I don't read these types of books, so I like am not ever sure when something is gonna happen like that. Like, I'm not good at catching those moments. But I was shook, and I highly, highly, highly recommend this if you haven't read it. I think it came out like 10 years ago, so she's been out for a bit. I think it came out in like 2012. I don't remember. But if you haven't read this yet, you should, because I was shook, that's for sure. Then I read Binding 13, and I was so excited to read this book. I read it and I listened to it because I was on a vacation the weekend that I was reading it. I gave this a 4-star. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. It doesn't look like it, but she's long. Like, the text is really small, and she's like 600 pages. But I will say I loved the characters in here. It's following Shannon and Johnny. If you have not read the series, I can't believe I'm like this late to the party. I feel like everybody else has read it, but it's Shannon and Johnny, and they're just like adorable. They're the cutest little things ever. She has this really, really tough relationship with her family, and Johnny basically takes her in, is like the best boy to her ever. It's the cutest little story, and well, I don't want to say cutest little story because it's like a lot of triggering topics in here. Like, it's really tough and dark sometimes, but their relationship is super cute and adorable. But I highly recommend this. I'm currently halfway through the second one, but I'm listening to it, and Spotify put me in jail, so I can't listen to the rest of it right now, but I am really enjoying it. The last 2 books were 2 new releases that I was so excited about. You guys know that I am an Elle Kennedy stan. Off Campus, Briar U, Campus Diary, the Misfit duology. I'm an Elle Kennedy stan. She's an auto-buy author for me, and I saw this at Target while I was on my trip. Told myself I wasn't gonna get any books that trip. Saw this in Target, and I was like, you're coming home with me. I give this a 4-star. This is the Dixon Rule. It's the 2nd book in the Campus Diaries series, which is the 2nd book to The Graham Effect. So this is following like the kids of those in the Briar U and Off Campus series. I am so obsessed with this series. It's ridiculous. So this is following Diana, Dixon, and Shane. And Diana is a dancer and a cheerleader, and Shane obviously plays hockey. Shane moves into Diana's apartment building, and they are like enemies. Of course, they're not really like enemies. He just likes to piss her off, and she lets him know that she does not like him. What's crazy about this book is literally every single One Direction member's name was used in it. Every single one. Niall, Harry, Louis, Liam, and Zayn. It was ridiculous. I was like, what are y'all doing here? Like, what is going on? This book, these ones are pretty thick, if I'm being honest, the Campus Diaries, but I had so much fun reading this book. Diana's partner for this dance competition bails on her. He ends up not being able to compete with her, so Shane does, basically to kind of make Diana not hate him anymore, which I feel like if that's the vibe of the boys in this series, I kind of love it, because in the first one, it was Ryder fake dating Gigi so that Garrett didn't hate him for being late to training one day. So if the whole gist of the series is like the guys doing favor for the girls so that the girls don't hate them anymore, I'm down. Like, I love that. The last book that I read in the month of May was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, and it pained me to give this book a 4-star out of 5. The whole time I was reading this book, I'm not even gonna tell you all the synopsis because everybody knows, everybody's been talking about it and everybody's been raving. You guys already know the Reddit article, like, you know everything about this. I gave this a 4-star, and it pained me to not give it a 5. Same reason why I did not give the Happy Ever After playlist a 5. I was literally sitting in bed with my boyfriend. We were both reading, and He finished his book, or well, he finished like reading what he wanted to read, and I had like a little bit left, so I was like, I'm gonna finish this and then we can go do something else. I literally like closed my book and like screamed into my pillow because I was like, I wanted this to be a 5-star so bad, but the ending, I just did not like the ending of this book. But I still highly recommend this. This is like probably a 4.5 if I really get to the nitty-gritty. It was so good. I loved the writing, I loved the characters. Justin was adorable. I loved him. This literally like the guys that Abby Jimenez writes are the cutest guys ever, and it gives me vibes of Sarah Adams' men and her books, and I love Sarah Adams guys. I highly recommend this book despite me not enjoying the ending. It's really just a me thing. Like I don't think anybody else is gonna be that butthurt about it, but unfortunately I was a little disappointed by the ending. That is everything that I read in the month of May. We redeemed ourselves. I read all of my TBR for the first time in like 3 months, which really shouldn't be that difficult because it's only 5 books. I picked my TBR in a way that I knew I would be satisfied with the books that I was reading. Yay! Next video I do is going to be me choosing my June TBR, so stay tuned for what I plan on reading in the next month. Yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys when I see you.